Yeah, different syntax like props. Before props, we understood how to display some dynamic value using curly brackets. Yeah, we understood the different rules for writing a JSX. Then we understood, yeah, then we understood what? Conditionally rendering something instead of always displaying the same thing. Conditionally rendering. For this conditional rendering, we use the props. Yeah, we use props for conditionally rendering. Yeah, we have seen how to nest and display components actually. Correct? Nest components one inside the another. We have understood a special props called children prop. Yeah, we know that objects cannot be used as a React child, meaning I cannot display an object, isn't it? And we have also understood okay how to display list of items. So you see all this aspect is more of you know how you want to create your UI, how you want to create a piece of UI, or it could be the entire page. These aspects are all related to making the UI. As a next step, we have to understand how do I add to this UI or to this displayed. I have displayed a lot of controls here. What if I don't give any life to these controls? What if I don't add interactivity? If I click on reference, it has to navigate somewhere. If I click on this, I should get a search model. So this is called interactivity. Yeah, I should be able to use, as a user, I should be able to use it. Use in the sense I should be able to work with it actually. That's what is called adding interactivity. Okay. Yes, there are few concepts here, which is like, okay, yesterday I think I was just talking about a pure component, keeping component pure. Yeah. So I think these are bit, I felt like, okay, bit of more of concepts, yeah, rather than syntax. Yeah. So we can revisit these topics later if you want. But I think it makes more sense if I cover something, which we can do hands-on, which we can actually understand how we do it. What is this? Yeah, adding interactivity. So now we will learn how do we, interact with the JSX driven UI. So we have a UI now created. How do I interact with it? So the simple answer for this is events. What is it? Events. So on a browser, yeah, in general, there are a lot of events that that a browser can detect, are events that happen actually. So examples for event. Now this selection is also an event. Clicking this element is also an event. I click on this button, that's also an event. Correct? Now it's an event. Yeah, I do mouse over. You see now? Suddenly the highlight or the you see the background color appears. This is an event. I start typing. This is also an event. Correct? So these kind of events are there. There are again variety of events. So mainly we classify like mouse events, keyboard events, pointer events, touch events. So likewise there are many events. Now, so in React we will see how do we handle this event. How do we register this event such that whatever elements I have added to the page, I should be able to interact. As a user, I should be able to work with them. So I don't do anything. See this button I've created. Nothing is happening actually on this. Yeah. So next we will understand how to responding to events. First of all, how to register and then what do we do if such an event happens. So different ways to write event handler. How to pass event handling logic from a parent component and how events propagate and how to stop them. Yeah, important topic because now we need interactivity and we will have a lot of examples. Don't worry, even if you're not following it. So we will make things easy by writing examples. Okay, so the first thing when I have to deal with events is I should. Do you hear me? I think yes. Yeah. Okay. So first thing we have to learn is how to add event handler. So what is an handler here and what is an event? Just now I described there is an event. Yeah, there are so many events which happen. So if an event happens, for that event, I respond with something. So let's take a real world example. Okay, suddenly some fire happens. What will you do? Suddenly you see a fire. You see a big fire. So that's an event, right? Yeah. So you handle it. You do something, correct? Some of you might say ignore, okay, it is fire in the mountain or in the hill station. So you will leave it. Let's say if the fire happens near your house, you will do something, you will call up. So that's what is called handling. Yeah, you will handle it. But how you handle it, it is up to up to the situation, up to the event. But you will handle it in some way. Yeah, you will call someone, you yourself will react to that event. That's in the real world. Now, so same way in JavaScript, yeah, also in React, it is possible to handle those events. Which means if certain event happens, then I want to do something. And that doing something logic we call handlers. What do we call? Handlers. These handlers in React, we write it with the help of what is called as functions. Handlers are nothing but functions. So if an event happens, we handle that through a function. So we will see examples, okay? Let's say if there is a click event happens, then I'll handle through a function what has to be done. Yeah, if there is an on change event happens with an input box, then so we can do something, we can perform something with again by writing some function. What is it? We can do that by using a function. Okay, we'll see examples. Fine. So let's look at this what it is. So declare a function called handle click. Now the JSX part is done, the render part is done. You can add a function called handle click and then implement the logic inside that function. You do what I mean, how you want to handle it, that logic you implement within this, and then do a registration, which is nothing but on this button you add this prop called on click. Yeah, see it is looking like a prop only, exactly prop, correct? Correct. So to this on click you pass the function name. What do you pass? You pass the function name as a prop. Now you do click. See what happened? I got a message. Why I got a message? Because because this function is doing that only. It is just saying the alert. Okay, yeah, something happened. Let's say you want to log. Click on this. You see now? I got a message. Clicked. Yeah. So they're saying there are three steps. One is you define a function. Yeah. You define a function. That too within the component. You see where we have defined that function? Yeah. We can define functions. Yes. I think this is the first time we are seeing as a part of syntax. Yes, you can create any number of functions within the component. Yeah. Let's say I want to handle another event. Let's say handle, yeah, handle double click. This is purely name of the function. There is nothing, there is no way related, what this has to do, or this is nowhere related. This name is not even related to what I'm actually doing here. It is just a function. Now this function I'm invoking based on this event. Now React, yeah, React as a large, as a library, it gives you, okay, these standard events. I'm saying these are standard events. So React supports a set of events now. You see, it's a button. It's not a component, correct? It's a built-in, uh, you know, element, React element actually. So that is providing. So React is providing this on click. To this on click, I'm registering this double click. Okay. So now let's say if I don't want it to be on click, yeah, I want to do something else actually. Yeah, on what else you can say? On double click. So we can register an event called on double click. And what all the event React supports? Yeah, we can see I think from the reference we can see a big list of what all event this React supports. Let's see. I'll show you. Okay, some of the events: adding event, responding to events, preloading an event handler. Okay. Oh, sorry, not this one. So in the APIs, responding to events is what we are actually looking at. Yeah, what we are looking at is the same thing. Fine, no issues. Okay, so let me add on hover event actually. That would be a simple one. What is the event name? On hover. What I want to do? I want to say, I want to simply display a message now. Okay, hover event fired. That's all I want to do. But actually, in practical, I think we can do more than that. Let me click on this. Do I have to click on this? No, I just have to do a mouse over. Earlier was a click, correct? Earlier was a click. Yeah. So let's see if I can get that message over here. I don't think so because it's a separate editor in which it is happening. I think this is just showing earlier there was a problem. Okay. So in simple words, this is how this is what you can actually get started with handling events. Yeah. Or adding event involves these three steps. Okay. So let me write a new stack place, and we will understand the different syntaxes actually. Yeah. So this is all today. It's all about learning how to handle these events. Okay. I'm going to fork this. I'm going to fork this. Once I fork this, so I'm forking it because it becomes easy for me to create a project. Again, I don't have to choose which template and all that. Yeah. So since this is already worked, I'm just going to use the same thing, whatever is already created, and here I can name it as React events. So this is the name of the uh, you know project I'm creating with. So later I'll be able to get this with this thing. So we know that we have to write a return and then div, and here we say, yeah, here our JSX cost. Now we are adding a button. Now here we are trying to understand how do we register events. Generally for a button we kind of add events because on a button we want to do something. For example, it could be login, submit, sign in. So a lot of the things happen with the buttons, correct? That's why we are now seeing an example of how to add. So, so we know the syntax so far till here. Now all we just learnt is it is possible to add a function. Yeah, you can put any name to this function, handle click, and we just understood how to invoke this function or how to respond to an event by passing in this function. That's all we learnt now. Okay, fine. So let's move on. Yeah, let's move on with this. So we have so many things to understand around this. So you define this and passed it as a prop. Yeah, and this is what is called as an event handler. Basically, event handlers are functions. That's what I already told you. And these event handlers, very important, they are usually defined inside this component itself. See, you have defined inside the component itself. So since they are saying usually, yes, it is also possible to define functions outside this. Why? Because it's a JS file, JavaScript file. You can define another function here also. Yeah, I can define a function outside, but these event handler function we define inside. That's what you remember. Okay. Yeah, you see these are the different types of event: on click, on mouse enter, on mouse leave. Yeah, there are so many events that generally are supported. MDN, JavaScript events. If you see, it shows you a big list of events which are actually available. Events reference. Okay, clipboard event. Yeah, transition related event, focus events, mouse related events, network related also events, meaning connection, close connection. Yeah, just a pointer. These are the, I think the eye level classification of different events. And let's say I want to understand mouse events. Yeah, we get mouse event itself. See, mouse event, we get a lot of names or a lot of event names which are actually related to mouse. So now we just saw one which is called mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse on over. This is all the name of the events. Again, they have not given exactly uh, their names. Here they have actually mentioned like, okay, how to handle such an event and how to deal with it. But that's fine. Yeah. So generally in a mouse related events, we can see all these things. Yeah. Even a click is also a mouse event. Huh? Double click also, DBL click, mouse up, mouse down is also a mouse event. Okay. So these are standard events which are actually defined. That's how you understand. Now, in terms of, yeah, next thing is in terms of writing a handler, there are so many syntaxes which are actually possible. So here is one syntax, here it is one more syntax. Yeah, what I have written is one syntax of writing event handler and then attaching this event handler by writing on click, saying handle click. Now they're saying, no, there is another version to this wherein you can write the function here itself. Can you get what I'm saying? You can write the function here itself. See, earlier we passed, what did we pass? We passed name of the function. This is very important. Not to confuse, you need not have to call the function. The React will take care of calling this function. As a prop, you only need to send the name of the function or the function reference. Now, instead of this, I can even write the whole function here itself. Correct? I can write the whole function here itself. Now let's see if that is going to work or not. See, test clicked. This function got executed. And this is a syntax, if you remember, this is function, expression kind of syntax. Rather than telling the name, we have written an inline function there itself. So from the previous classes with the JavaScript knowledge, we also know that, okay, we also know that it is possible. Yeah, let me add another button. So earlier we said, so let's do on mouse over. Yeah, on mouse over. Okay, so we'll have to pass a prop. Now this prop can be an arrow function also. Correct? Yeah, on over me or over on me. Now what I'm showing you, I'm just showing you another syntax in the JSX itself. I can all I'm just doing is, instead of writing a function declaration, I'm using an arrow function syntax. That's all I'm trying to show you. Yeah, I can even write an, you see that? As and when the mouse is over that element, this event is being called. But right now, just to show you an example, I'm using arrow function syntax. Here I'm using function declaration or a function expression syntax. Earlier what I told you, it's more of function declaration syntax. So I define a function here and then I'm going to mention the name of that function. Is it clear what I'm asking or what I'm saying now? Yeah, this is a
Yes,
way
sir.
to get started with event handling. This is not all of it. There are still many things to understand now. Alright, so let's move on with this. So they've given, okay, generally we make a lot of mistakes as a beginner. Okay, so you just have to pass the function name, not invoking it. This is incorrect. You know what happens if I just call that function here? Here if I call the function, what happens? Very simple. So whenever is React is rendering this JSX, it will first call this function. Yeah, before even clicking itself, it is going to call this function. Okay, and the return value of handle click is what? What is the return value of handle click? See, I'm not even executed. I did not even click on this. I did not click. Did I click? No. It just caused a re-rendering. And you see that already? Click function called. Click function called. Did I click? No, I'm not clicking actually. Now why this happened? This function got already invoked. Why? Because I have done a mistake by putting parenthesis. And the return value of this is actually undefined. Because this function is not returning anything. We know that JavaScript will return. If I don't return anything, then the return value is undefined. Now let me see what happens if I click on this click me. Anything happening? Is this line printing again? No, because instead of giving a handler, you return almost as simple as you return the return value, which is like undefined. You return something like this because you called the function. The React executed this while rendering the JSX. So that is why it is important you just mention the name of this function. Okay, this is one common pitfall. Okay, next thing, yeah, next thing is when you are using arrow functions, yeah, so you can use arrow function. I showed you this syntax, correct? So let's say you want to call some function. You want to call some function which is already available. In that case, they are saying use this arrow function syntax and then call that function. Instead, don't call that function directly like this, because this will get immediately executed before even the event happens, and you don't want that to happen. Correct? So don't write or don't execute the function in response to this event. Rather, you wrap this function call inside some functions like, okay, function expression or function declaration syntax, or even using arrow function syntax. These are like common beginner mistakes we do. Okay, so with this we understood basically what is an event handling, yeah, or how do I get started with event handling. But that is not all. Okay, so the next thing is reading props in event handlers. See, we know what are props, we know what are event handlers now. Now all we are trying to understand is how do I get, yeah, how do I get that prop inside the event handler? Let's see what we'll do with that. So you see there is a message which is being passed as a prop to this alert button component. What is being passed? Message is passed. Children also being passed. Now, so they have also added an event handler called onClick. And you see what goes inside? So there is a prop which is being used for alerting. So in simple, yeah, within the event handler, yeah, it is possible to access the prop which are passed to the component. Both message and children are props to the alert button, but you are able to access it. See, play a movie, playing, upload image, uploading. Now where these two text came, they are passed as a prop. Okay, so nothing much with this. So basically you can access props inside event handler. That's what you remember with this example. I'll repeat, you can access props inside event handler. If I have to show you an example, yes, let's say if this component is getting some prop, yeah, assume that prop is here with the name as like, a message. Yeah, let's say const, I'll just define it as message. Okay, test message that you can access inside this. That's all it is saying. Yeah, instead of writing a prop, in my case, I have given you inline variable. I can access it. Now click on this. See that you got the second console log, which is test message, where inside the inside the event handler. Moving on, passing event handlers as props. Okay, let me explain that with an example now. Fine, we have an app component. We understood how to handle events. Yeah. So let me show you how you can actually pass an event handler to another component. What is it? Okay, a passing event handler as a prop. If you remember, till yesterday I told you, you can pass a component itself as a prop. You can pass object as a prop. You can pass array itself as a prop. We know how to pass even Boolean values, primitives. Yeah, all different primitives. Now let's say I do handle click, and this is an event handler. Generally, as a standard syntax, yeah, as a naming convention, not the standard syntax, naming convention, we use this verbs handle, on, yeah, and then we say what is the event which is handling. That's how we write it. Yeah, handle click, handle submit, handle change. That's how we name it. Huh? So you also should learn to use the similar names whenever you are writing event handlers. Now, this main component is actually having another component called button. Now to this button component, okay, so I have not created one, but let me create one button component also. So this button component is doing something like, okay, it is just displaying this button. Now the question becomes, the event handler is in the parent, but then actual event is happening in the child. In this case, how do I call this function in response to the click which is inside this child component? That is the scenario. So for this scenario, we should pass this function as a prop to the button. Yeah. So let's say click handler. I can give any name I want. Or if you don't want to change, I can. So always we suggest use the same name so that the confusion will not be there. Here it is handle click. You pass the same name so that while passing it becomes lot simple to understand the code. Otherwise, it is the last confusing. If you try to use different name, it is confusing. It will be confusing. Fine. In that case, now you passed it as a prop. So with the so far learnings that we had in React, you know that anything which is passed as a prop, you can destructure it. And in the destructure, you can extract yeah, individual property which are coming part of that props object into individual variables. Now this handle click is what it is having? It is having this function. Now what I can do with that? I can now just respond to this. I can respond to this. Yeah, I can respond to this event which is happening in the JSX of the child to this on click. Now I can pass this function. How? Handle click. Let's see if this is working now. Click. See, it is working. Where is this function? This is in the parent. But how is it accessible in the child? Via the prop. And that is a concept called passing event handler as props. Yeah, not just simple values, not just arrays and object. It is possible to pass event handlers also as a prop. Okay, that's what the next thing they're saying. Naming event handlers. You know, they're talking about the standard convention. So by convention, event handler props should start with on, followed by a capital letter. For example, buttons component on click prop should have been called with on smash. So they're saying, yeah, so you use on actually that, to the prop. I did pass it as handle click. If you're handling on click, if you're handling click, then you will say on click. Same way, if you're passing, an handler as a prop, better you use the same word on. Getting what I'm saying? They're saying use the use the property name as on click. On click, I want to execute this function on smash, on play movie, on upload image. That's how you name the prop is what they're saying to the component. I told you, okay, we generally define event handlers and we have to use the same name. Yeah, but they're saying these event use on actually. Prefix with on and then start with a capital letter followed by what is that particular, handler is doing. Okay, so that's a naming convention. Huh? How to use the event handlers. I mean, how to name the prop. Okay, this is to name the prop. Huh? This is not talking about, you know, writing the handlers. Writing the handler, yes, we do handle. You put this word called handle click. If it is an handle change event, then we write, as I told you, we say handle change. If the event is handling a mouse over, then we say handle on change or handle, yeah, mouse enter, mouse over. So likewise, we name it. Now this prop alone, they're saying do pass it as on actually. So do pass it as on, and here you will receive it as on click because this is being passed. That's the naming convention. They're suggesting. To just follow the standard naming. All right. See, there are like so many things we are learning about just events. All right. Next thing is event propagation. We understood defining. We understood the different syntax to register it. We also learned how to pass it as a prop. Next thing is event propagation. Okay, so this is a concept, yeah, which does exist in JavaScript itself. Now we are seeing, yeah, how we can deal with this propagation. So I'll tell you in simple words. So let's say I have a page, and in that page I have put a button. So now when you click on this button, yeah, when you click on this button, the event happens is what we are just trying to understand now. But the way standard event works, yeah, the way standard event works, okay, it's called event propagation, which means there are so many elements actually on this page. You're only seeing that I am clicking on a button. But why don't you think like, okay, what if this button is not there? Why don't you think like, okay, you're not clicking, you're clicking on a body element. Let's say a page is made of body. Why you don't consider like, okay, I'm clicking on body also at the same time? Or if there is a div around this button, why you don't think that, okay, the event is happening on the div itself, not just purely on the button? Yeah. For this, the answer is event propagation. Yeah. So we event propagation, okay, yeah, javascript.info has this very good diagram. It has got three phases, meaning whenever an event happens, yeah. So the first thing is, yeah, the way it does work is, okay, it goes through three phases. Phase one, phase two, and the reverse is called phase three. Yeah, in simple, the event starts or event was is first observed or notified or even cached can be handled in its parent element. You see, first it gets detected on window, and then it comes to the document, which is a root element, yeah, and then the HTML root element, then comes to the body, then actually it reaches to the element on which you have clicked. So let's say in our case we have clicked on a button. So then the event, you know, actually reaches to that element. So when it reaches, then that is called phase two. And then again, it doesn't stop here. It again bounces back. Okay, bounces back in reverse words. Yeah, here is a reversing. Phase three is reversing. This is how generally event propagates. Yeah, in a standard DOM. Event propagation happens like this. It is as simple as, you know, in a layman term, let's say there is a river and you throw a stone into it. Tell me what happens. You throw a stone. First, the stone will go deep, correct? It will reach the bottom. You can think like, okay, that is where the stone was supposed to be. And from here, can you tell me what happens further? Further, you will start seeing bubbles rising up, isn't it? If you throw a stone, that event, the stone will reach the bottom, but then again from there, it will bounce back to the top. This is an exact analogy how a standard DOM event happens. Though you click on a button, yeah, so the DOM event, first thing is, though you click, first it gets detected in the parent element, then it gets detected in its child, further again its child, then finally on that target element where, like, let's say if it is a button, then it reaches to this element. What is it? It reaches to this element. So once it reaches to that element, here now we would have generally put some event handlers on this button element. What we would have done? We would have put some event handlers on this button. Now the button event handler executes. After that, the event doesn't stop here. Again, it goes back. It goes back. It gets notified to its parent. It gets notified further to its parent. It gets notified further its parent until it reaches the top element, which is like window. That's how the normally event works. And this is actually called as propagation. So simple English meaning propagation means it is moving basically. Correct? Event is moving from where to where? We'll see now. Now, okay. So there are like we basically call their phase, okay? When it is going down, it is called as capture phase. It will reach the target and then it is coming back as a bubble. Then that is called bubbling phase. Alright, yeah, that is generally a event propagation. But now, yeah, okay, there is one catch to it, one thing to remember. All events propagate in React except on scroll, which only works on JSX tag you attached to it. So they're saying most of these events on click, on mouse over, everything, yeah, they will all propagate, meaning they will first appear in the parent, then that event will appear here, and then that event will appear here, and then also the event will appear here. But only in on scroll, event will not appear in any of the parent element. It will happen only on the target element. Now, what do you mean by event will appear and propagate? In simple, okay, let's say I have defined button click. Now around this, I will put one div. Yeah, I'll show you one very small example for now. If you're still not following or if you're still having some confusion, for a better clarity, I'll add a div. You see now what I'm going to do now? I am going to add another click handler. But now this time instead of registering it or linking it in the button, I will put in its parent element which is div. Now why I'm doing this? This is just to show that okay, events actually bubbles. Yeah, and event also propagate through parent to child. To show that I'm adding okay console.log. This is event fired on div. And for this on click, we know it works is going to print. But this is called when it is clicked on div. I'll do a simple one shot click. You observe that both this function gets executed. Both the one which is in the div also gets executed and the one which is written in button also gets executed. Why? Answer is event is propagating. That is why event is moving from one to other element. See, works is also being printed. It has executed this and then it has executed even this also. Why? So the same event got fired on this div also after which. And generally we handle events in bubbling phase, not in the capturing phase. If you handle it in capturing phase, then first this message will print and then this message will print. Or basically the order of execution will be reversed. I'm saying we generally these event handlers are handled in the bubbling phase, which means first it goes to the actual element and then comes up to its parent and then further it comes up to its top parent, meaning its parent and so on, and that is why it is called bubbling phase. Now the question comes, how do I stop it? Okay, this also getting executed, this also executing. But what if I don't want this to be executed? See your click. This is fine. I don't want this to happen. I want to stop, cut down. Can you tell me how to do it? Yes, the answer is okay. We have to understand how to stop the propagation. So very simple. React says just like a normal function. This is there in JavaScript also. We are not learning anything new, but this concept is exactly there in JavaScript. It's just that we are trying to see the same syntax what is there in, what do we write, how do we write in React. Now in simple what it says, whenever this handler is being invoked, whenever this handler is being invoked, there is a special object which gets passed to that event handler. What is it? That event handler function, okay, will be invoked with a special object called, special object. So right now I'm naming it as event, and I'll put a curly bracket so that while printing we'll understand, okay, this is the same key we are displaying here. Now, okay, I updated it. So now let me click on it. See what happened now. I'm getting this event object. Yeah, and this is actually called synthetic event because it is created one from React, not the real DOM. So yeah, React creates this synthetic event object and then it passes that to this event handler. Fine, everything is okay. Fine, I'm able to log. But this event object in generally will have a lot of information. Yeah, on which element the event has happened, what is its x and y, are there any handlers for it. You see, it is displayed in the screen where is the x and y coordinate. It also tells which phase. I told you there are three phases. Third one is a bubbling phase, as you remember. So it is saying this event handler executed in the phase 3 of the event. So likewise, that has a lot of information. Yeah, what type of event it is, and what is the target element and which the event has first occurred, or what is the target basically. Yeah, it does even have a timestamp, which is very good. Yeah, so in simple, now on top of all this property, it's an object. You're seeing it as an object. So event is purely an object. This has one important method called stop propagation. What does it has? Event dot stop propagation. The syntax is very important. If you write something, then it will not execute. Yeah. So it is stop propagation. Yes, lowercase propagation. Now, now see what happens. I'm stopping it. I'm stopping this event, the click event, from going back to the parent. Now you observe what happens. This onClick will not get executed. This onClick event handler will not executed. Let me click on it. Do you see? Only Vox is coming. Why? The event did not bubble. With the stop propagation, we are telling the event not to bubble. Saying, okay, stop. I'm done. If not stopped, then it goes to the parent element. But I am stopping it. Okay, this is syntax. But then what is the purpose of stopping it? Why do we stop it? So as you can understand, if I want to execute only this event handler, I should ideally stop it. Otherwise, it cascades. It cascades up to the parent element. Unnecessarily, these event handlers gets executed. Unnecessarily, let's say if I put another event handlers on top of this, those gets executed. I don't want that to happen. So yeah, in general, so it's a good practice. We stop it also because if the event is handled in the current event handler itself, and you don't want it to pass. Getting what I'm saying? Yeah. So we use the standard syntax, and this E is also E, and that stop propagation is also a built-in method which is there in the event object. What do you say? Yes. Okay. If you search in JavaScript stop propagation, see that event has this method called stop propagation. What it does, they've given everything. It's a method. See, so event has this method. Event as a property like target, timestamp we just saw, type we saw, the type of the event. We saw also X and Y, bubbles, yes or no. Yeah. So all this information gets available in this event instance of that event. It's an object. Okay, all this is fine. Yeah, we are learning so much of concept into the event handlers and all. Okay. So passing handlers as alternative to propagation. Yeah. So from here we are passing it here. Okay, since I don't want a parent event handler, or I want the parent event handler to execute even with the stop propagation, that's where I am receiving the event handler as a prop. Preventing default behavior. This is another thing. Just like stop propagation, we would like to prevent default behavior. So as the name itself says, okay, now you understood how to stop the propagation, fine. But there are some default behaviors which generally happens. For example, if I have a form and I do submit, I have a form and I do submit the form, what happens? Tell me. So there are a lot of things happens. But one default behavior generally we see when we submit the form is it is going to clear all the values, correct? Clear all the values. Another thing is if you click on submit button, the default thing is it is going to submit the form. That's a default behavior. So for certain use cases, we want this to be, we want, we don't want the default behavior to happen. And this is again in response to event handling. So now the topic becomes how do I stop that kind of behavior? Okay, again very simple. And the event object which we are going to get, yes, you see, now I don't want the form submission to happen. So on the event object itself, we have a method called prevent default. By default, if I wrap something in the form and I click on submit or send, form gets submitted. Basically, form will reload the page. I don't want that to happen. How I can stop it? So that's called prevent default. It's a default behavior. Generally, the form tag executes or exhibits, so that we are actually stopping with prevent default. Yeah, many a times people confuse what is the difference between stop and prevent. Okay, both are useful, but they are not related. All right. At the end, the question becomes: can event handlers have side effects? So, what are side effects? Yes, we have not discussed what exactly the side effects. I think we'll discuss about this. But for now, I think if you are familiar with this syntax or these basic syntax, yeah, first thing is how to handle events. For that, we need to create a function, uh, which actually acts as an handler, and then registering it, and then different ways to pass this function. Yeah, one is using name of the function, another one is I can write inline. Yeah, the function here itself. Another one is I can even write an arrow function itself, and never, yeah, execute the function. Never execute the function. You pass any of these three syntax. Yes, we understood it is possible to pass this as a prop. Okay, that's also cool. Then we understood, okay, to each of this event handler, yeah, whether you would write a function or you write an inline, we get one special object, yeah, which is being passed by the React, which is called event object, and it will have a lot of properties. In that we just explored that event dot stop propagation means what, and then we also understood kind of event dot prevent default means what? So if you know this much, I mean, whatever I have just told you now, I think this is a good enough beginning, and you just have to be familiar with the syntax of writing this much for taking advantage of this. Now we have just learned the topic. In the next class we will see what is the usage of this, what kind of interactivity we do add with this, and there are a lot of things. Okay, so now you know that all the pages are dynamic. There is no single website which will not allow you to do a click, which will not allow you to type. Yeah, so this we understood general event handling. This is a concept. So later I think in future we will learn how to handle different types of event, click event handling, enter event handling, on change event handling, submit event handling. That's the next set of concept we have to learn with events. Okay, so I think I'll have to stop here, or mostly we have done with learning this.